So now we have types of triangles, and this can be found in chapter 3.6 in your books if you want to follow along. So our objectives: we want to be able to name the various types of triangles and their parts, and we want to be able to find out how to view a deleted scene from the Avengers. So there are many different types of triangles, as you can see from my list. There is scalene, isosceles, equilateral, equiangular, acute, right, and obtuse. So let's go ahead and go through them all one by one. A scalene triangle is a triangle in which no two sides are equal. So notice none of these sides are equal at all. Easy enough, nothing else to be said about that. An isosceles triangle is a triangle in which at least two sides are congruent. So in triangle DEF, segment DE is congruent to segment DF. Segment DE and DF are called the legs. So the two congruent segments are the legs. It doesn't matter which way the triangle is. It could be upside down on its side. It doesn't matter. The two congruent parts are always the legs. Okay, EF is called the base. Okay, angle E and angle F are called base angles and are also congruent. And angle D is called the vertex angle. So just keep that in mind. It's some terminology that may come up later. An equilateral triangle is a triangle in which all the sides are congruent. So we can go ahead and say that's congruent to that is congruent to that. The word equilateral can be applied to any figure in which all sides are congruent. So like a square is an equilateral figure. That's just an example of how you can use it with something other than just a triangle. An equiangular triangle is a triangle in which all angles are congruent. And you might be saying to yourself, well, if all their angles are congruent, doesn't that mean that all their sides are congruent? So can't I just call them the same thing? Yes, actually you can, but only with triangles. Okay, so the word equiangular can be applied to any figure in which all angles are congruent. You can have a figure that has equal angles, but does not have equal sides. So again, that's something that we're going to be getting into later, but equiangular and equilateral, when used with triangles, are pretty much saying the same thing, but other figures may not necessarily be true. So just be aware of that. An acute triangle is a triangle in which all the angles are acute. In other words, less than 90 degrees. So we've got 80, 60, and 40 here. All those angles are less than 90, so it's an acute triangle. Then we have a right triangle. Right triangle is a triangle in which one of the angles is a right angle, right here. Okay, the side opposite the right angle is called the hypotenuse. All right, and oops, don't mind my spelling. In fact, I'm going to correct that. All right, let's try that again. Hypotenuse. Okay, and each of these, the sides that make up the right angle, are the legs. Okay, right angles or right triangles have a lot of special properties that we'll be getting into at a later date. So you might want to learn what parts of the triangle are what. The hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle always. The other two parts are the legs. So that way, when we're talking about them later, you know what we're talking about. So this is probably the most important one to remember for the future and over the course of this honors geometry course. Obtuse. An obtuse triangle is a triangle in which one of the angles is an obtuse angle. Obviously, this one's larger than 90 degrees. Probably say it's 110 degrees. You could probably say that each of these are about 35 degrees. That's just a guess. Doesn't matter. But if one of the angles is greater than 90 degrees, it is an obtuse triangle. Alright, now, how can we use this all in a proof? Well, suppose I wanted to prove that triangle ABC is acute. Okay, and I'm given figure 1. Sometimes you're given just the figure and the information's in the figure. You have to go off that. So I'm kind of going back to that. We did that a little bit. Alright, so we could say that the measure of angle A is 70 degrees, and that's a given because of the figure. We could also say the measure of angle B is 50 degrees, and again, that's a given because it's in the figure. Now, this isn't listed here, so we just can't say, oh, it's 60 degrees, so it's an acute angle. I mean, we're going to get there, but we've got that this is 60 degrees. So we have to say that angle ACB and angle DCE are congruent because vertical angles are congruent. Then we have to state that the measure of angle ACB is 60 degrees. Okay, this one right here, we can say that now because congruent angles have the same measure. Now we can say the triangle ABC is acute because an acute triangle consists of 3 acute angles, 1, 2, and 4. So that's how you would use it in a proof. It can be useful, but it's more to just show you the different types of triangles. Alright, so tomorrow we will be going over overlapping triangles. Again, not a tedious subject, but something that, again, can be extremely useful. So, yeah, about that deleted scene, I will share that with you guys now, and enjoy. Have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in class.